Good evening and welcome to our community meeting on the Las Palmas Branch Library Bond Project. We are very excited to be here tonight because we have all kinds of good news to share and we want to get your input on adding back some priorities to the project. But first, oh, I've got the clicker. I never get the clicker at home, so I'm not used to having it. So this is kind of our run-a-show for the evening. We'll have plenty of opportunity for questions and some dialogue at the end of the meeting, which of course I know everyone's eager to get to. So we've made the presentation very brief. I'm Kathy Donnellan. I'm the interim library director. So once again, welcome. And then I'll welcome up Councilmember Castillo for some opening remarks. And then we'll go through a project update and some next steps. We'll have time for questions, and we have a number of resources here to help us with questions. And then I'll come up and do some closing remarks for you. I did want to welcome 3 of our library board members to the meeting. So we have Mary Ann, who is the representative of this district. So welcome. We have Joanne Harris, who is the District 2 representative, and then we have our library board chair, Jaspreet Kaur. So, and again, thank you all for being here. So with that, I'll turn it over to Councilmember Castillo. I think I'm supposed to give you, there we go. Thank you.
Well, it's really exciting to be here with you all. During the last update meeting, we were having some tough conversations, right, of what we may potentially need to scale back. So I'm excited to see one community here who's helped shape this project since I believe 2017, the Friends of Las Palmas Libraries and so many other community members, as well as our District 5 Board of Trustee, Mary Ann Valdez Hernandez, and of course the chair and Ms. Harris, who are also here, ensuring that we continue to advocate for our community assets. All of our libraries are those assets in those spaces where our community come together to meet. And just highlighting how exciting it is and acknowledging the great work of city staff, right? I'm extremely grateful for library staff and the public works team for shaking every tree to ensure that we try and secure funding to make sure that we materialize that vision that community has in mind with Las Palmas. So with that, really excited to be here to listen to more discussion on what this community vision is. And I'll hand it back over to Kathy. Thank you.
Okay, so we did want to share just a refresh on the scope of the project. So the Las Palmas Branch project, we've kind of split it into 2 phases, and I'll show you in a little bit the progress photos from phase 1, which is actually complete. So that's exciting. But we are touching on basically every part of the branch, including the common area where the restrooms are as you enter the building. And then there's also an expansion of 2,000 square feet at the front of the building, which of course we heard loud and clear from the community was a top priority for the project. So service desk improvements, collection realignment, new furniture, new technology, really a complete refresh of the existing branch. So we're very excited about it. There also will be a new digital exterior monument sign, so similar to what's here at Memorial. And that'll be our second in the library system, and we think it'll bring a lot of great visibility to the branch. So we announced recently that we've received 2 awards of additional funds for the project. The first is a $250,000 gift from the HEB Foundation through our San Antonio Public Library Foundation. And this really was the result, although the timing is recent, of getting the award. It's the result of actually a couple years of fundraising effort by the foundation. So that specifically was part of the capital campaign as a naming gift for the plaza, for the expansion. Also, we pursued a city staff federal appropriation from Congressman Castro's office, and we received an award of $135,000 that'll benefit the overall project, but it's specifically earmarked for the Learn Center, which is our adult education center within the branch. So what that means is we'll be able to talk about recommendations for adding back some of the items that previously we had to recommend to the board to value engineer out. And that, of course, was to close the budget gap. But with this additional $385,000, The team is recommending that we add back in 3 items. The solar shade system, which I think Pam and Scott Carpenter, who are the architects for the project, did such a great job of explaining all the value of that system that we're really excited to recommend adding that back. Also, the meeting room support area that is adjacent to the existing meeting room and the storage associated with that. And then finally, the beautiful plan for landscaping, irrigation, and decorative lighting at the front. So those are the 3 items that tonight we're recommending to the community, and we'd love to get feedback when we get to the questions part and the feedback part. There are a few items that were on the value engineered list that we are not recommending adding back, and it's primarily because of funding, but also because of the way we're doing the fire suppression system. So first, you'll remember those 3 clear story windows in the foyer. We are not recommending adding that back in terms of leaving the windows, not removing them, because that is an integral part of the fire suppression system, the way we're doing it in the building. And that would kind of be a domino effect of some other changes that would need to happen. Same for the adjustments to the storefront windows. It would be very cost prohibitive to add those back. It's a very slight adjustment to those storefront windows at the expansion. Then you'll probably recall that originally there was a wood ceiling application in the meeting room in the expansion. That is quite a costly finish. So we have put in place a different plan with that acoustical baffling that we showed previously. So that is another item we're not recommending. And then the inclusive restroom, which would be an additional restroom in addition to the 2 existing men and women's restrooms. We think that could be a potential future fundraising opportunity that could maybe be done in the future. So that's a quick overview of where we are. The next slides show kind of more specifically each of the 3 items that we're recommending adding back. So you'll probably recall that this is a very technical diagram of the solar shade system that shows kind of all the benefits for heat, light, to that expanded portion of the plaza area. So that's a recommended add back. Then this kind of gives an overview in 2 different pictures of that expansion to the front. Again, that's a 2,000 square foot expansion that incorporates the existing outdoor plaza into a conditioned indoor space. And this depicts all the different landscaping, decorative lighting, and of course there's irrigation needed for those planted beds. So we definitely heard the feedback that, you know, this is the curb appeal. So we really, really wanted to recommend this. And then finally, this is just the floor plan, so not a rendering, but it kind of shows that the existing meeting room, where it is, and you're probably all very familiar with that. And then there's this little support space here. The meeting room right now doesn't have storage space, proper storage space for the tables and chairs, so they get left in the meeting room because we really don't have a choice, and then that kind of diminishes the use of the meeting room. So this would be storage space for that, as well as to maintain a sink and a counter in that area as a support area. So if you wanted to serve coffee for a meeting, that type of thing could happen. So those are the 3 recommended add backs. And we'll just run briefly through some progress photos that I hope you'll be happy with, because a lot of work has happened on phase 1. And then we can, towards the end of the program, get to some Q&A, get your feedback. So this is a real picture, not a rendering, of the progress on the circulation area. So this is as you enter the branch. And of course, the circulation desk will be kind of farther back into the branch. So just to kind of give you an idea of where we are in terms of progress on the construction. This is the main area, mainly a view of the stacks. This is the Connect Computer Center. So this is the furniture for that. Of course, we don't have the computers in place yet, but that gives you an idea of the progress on that area. Teen library, this shows one view of the seating area, but it's really a dedicated space for teens. So very much an improved experience for the teens. The children's area, so also improvements to that age-based area. Learn at Sapple, we've definitely found, we've learned about Learn, that you really do need a dedicated area with some separation for the activities that go in that area. So that's kind of where we are with phase one. Just briefly to share that if we hear tonight that there's support for these recommendations, then the next step would be for the board to consider it for approval, so we can formally add back those items to the project and move forward next to City Council with a construction contract for phase two. So that would be the idea and the path forward. And then finally, just because I can't resist showing a spreadsheet, I'm really sorry. So this is kind of illustrates that long road, and I want to thank you for your patience. Because ultimately this project, when we started with the 2017 bond, it was a $1.7 million project. And one of the first things that happened when we went to get input from the community was the very strong voice to say, we want something better at the front of the building. You know, we need something better than the existing plaza. It's hot, it's bright, you know, you can't really enjoy it. So that's when we decided to, with that community input, to go through a second bond process to add funds. So then 2022 bond funds were added. At the same time, we kept pursuing any resources we could possibly find. So you'll see a number of those listed here. For example, through the city's Office of Sustainability, we're going to be doing a lighting upgrade to more energy efficient LED lighting. That brought $100,000 to the project. And then, of course, we have our fundraising partner, the San Antonio Public Library Foundation, and they've raised a great deal of money for the project too. We added 2022 bond funds, again, when we saw what a large gap remained. And then these more recent additional funding sources with the gift from HEB and then the federal appropriation. So I know it's been a long time coming, but it is a project that has gone in that time from a $1.7 million project to a $6.4 million project. So we are very happy to suggest these add backs tonight. And, oh, that's it. I thought we had a question slide, but, oh, is it? Oh, yeah, there it is, questions. In gigantic print, up at the top. So with that, we'll open it up to questions. We have a lot of different resources here tonight to try to help with questions. And so depending on what you want to ask about or give feedback on, we'll invite some resources up and introduce those folks. And I think, if you don't mind, yeah, is that okay, Ms. Pena? Yeah, come on up.
Is that right?
Yeah, we're live streaming, so it'll help to speak into the microphone.
Okay, I had a question on the slide where you, the total of the add backs was $385,000.
Yes. Do you want to help me do the thing where you hit the number so I don't make everybody feel sick? Thank you, ma'am.
Okay, but according to what was sent out as information for this meeting, $135,000 of that was supposed to be, was funding initiated by Representative Castro to provide construction for the library's new Learn Center at SAPL, Adult Education Site.
That's right. So with the funding that was originally in the project, specifically for Learn, this new funding kind of supplants that, so it opens up a little more wiggle room in the project. So the Learn Center is still happening as originally envisioned.
Okay, because...
Can you go back to the funds added so she can see the
Sure.
breakdown?
Right, so you're saying the $135,000 was really
It'll be used for the Learn Center construction.
But I
Yeah.
thought the Learn Center was already in the library.
Right, so.
And that was
yeah.
part of the 2017 bond, because I went back to my meeting notes from other community meetings, and back in early 2022, before the 2022 bond was approved, we were already talking about the Learn Center and where it was going to be placed next to the children's area in the
Yeah.
library. So I was surprised when I saw that we had another 135,000 for the Learn Center construction, because it's like,
Yes,
What does
it's,
that mean?
it's for construction. There's a portion of it for construction, and that includes things like cabling in the building, other things that haven't happened yet. And then there's money for furniture, fixtures, equipment. So
for the Learn Center.
For the Learn Center, yes, ma'am.
So that was not budgeted for initially?
It was budgeted for initially, and so this funding will be used for that purpose, but then that opens up some funding within the overall project that we can use for the add back.
Okay, and I guess I just wanted clarification because, again, what you had sent out said this money that Representative Castro basically had identified was for construction of the Learn Center.
Yes, and we did use shorthand construction of the Learn Center, that's absolutely right. There's a breakdown of the $135,000 and what's the allowable uses.
Okay,
So, and it will be used for Learn, but it's an excellent question. I know that kind of
I
how
know,
you
it was
bring
like-
all the resources to the table, but the
Right.
commitment is still for the Learn as designed in the location designed. And then there are certain specific allowable uses of that Learn Center appropriation. Yes,
Okay.
ma'am.
so the 385,000 is clearly for putting these items back in, the ones that were initially cut.
That's right.
Okay,
Yes.
thank you.
But thank you for the question. It's important for us to have transparency around that.
Be next, I guess. I'm looking at all the questions. Good evening, my name is Velma Biniam, and first of all, I'd like to thank you for sending out all the mail outs and also for delivering the flyers to the restaurant to get the word out about this meeting. It's really appreciated
Thank
that you did
Ms.
that.
Pena.
I wanted to go back to the meeting room.
Yes.
The recommendation of the meeting room being that you're talking about the storage. So because the way it is right now, it's like a little kitchen, right? So how are those tables and chairs going to fit in there? I mean, is it going to be expanded?
Yes.
And is the counter going to be, like you said, we could use it because we would like to serve
Right.
coffee and where we can plug it in and things like that. So would it be possible to add a microwave as well, or something where it's usable to people that want to have a meeting there, and of course to your staff as well?
Yeah, absolutely. So we can, Pam or Scott could give a kind of more expanded answer, but the answer to both of your questions is yes.
Okay.
Yes, it will be expanded to accommodate the storage, and yes, it'll remain that little kitchenette area.
Okay.
And we often have, I'm not sure if we have one in here, but we do often have some other pieces in the little kitchenette, so I'm sure we could look into what we can provide.
Okay, and then you had mentioned at the other meeting about the irrigation, right, that it was very
Yes.
costly. So of course, we wanted landscape, and, that's a given, we want landscape. But do we have to have irrigation for any type of landscaping, even if it's, what is it?
Xeriscape.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Or with pots, something something that's, we don't need the irrigation, so we could
Yeah.
use the money for something else.
Yeah, so the first thing I'd like to say about that is with this add back, we will be able to afford the irrigation. It is our standard practice to put irrigation in these landscape beds, because what we found, especially with the weather patterns we've been having, that even xeriscaped materials are really subject. And honestly, what it is you've got plants that are great in the heat and the drought, and then it snows, right? So we've just found that by doing irrigation, it kind of allows us a variety of different planting materials, and then we're better able to maintain it.
Okay, so you also mentioned, because we have bushes there right now, right? So those are
Yes.
going to be removed?
Those will be removed.
Okay, but not the palm trees, correct?
Not the palm trees.
Okay,
yes,
and then
ma'am.
the lighting that you talked about, is the lighting on the entrance underneath? Right there?
Yes.
Or the way it looks there, is that the
That's
way it's
right.
going to be?
Mhm.
Okay. I have another question as far as the HEB Foundation. I'd like to thank HEB Foundation for donating the $250,000 and also Congressman Castro. I would like to know if you can give us clarification on the naming of the plaza. So if you can please give us some background on that.
Sure.
And that's my last.
I'm gonna start, but our expert is in the back of the room.
Okay.
So, anytime we do a capital project like this bond project, our library board of trustees approves basically a capital campaign. And these are the different areas of the building, for different amounts that the foundation, our library foundation, can then go and try to solicit donations, and there can be a name attached to those opportunities. Once something is secured, it goes through a public process about the actual name. So there's a public input process, there's board involvement, and ultimately they make a decision about whether to approve the name or not. And Dale, I don't know if you want to add anything about the process. Because the whole idea of it is to make sure that whatever the proposed name is, we get input, we have public meetings, and we have
But it has something to do with HEB as far as the
Yes,
naming goes.
that's
Because
right.
this is the foundation.
Yes.
That's totally separate from HEB itself, right? This, okay.
So Kathy's right, there is a public process. So after the next meeting of the Board of Trustees, there would be a public meeting, which will probably be here, to get input on the proposed name. I don't mind saying right now, because I don't think there's any problem with me saying it, the name that HEB is proposing is the HEB Plaza at the Las Palmas Library. They wanted to make it clear they weren't in any way trying to rename the library.
Okay, thank you.
So at Las Palmas Library is part of the formal name that will be proposed. So the naming committee will have public input here, like right here in this room. And then a recommendation will go to the Board of Trustees, and then, they will make a decision about the name.
Okay, thank you. I have
that
two
help?
more items I want to talk about.
Okay.
Because you mentioned the digital signage, right? It's similar. So when are we going to be able to see the actual signage, the digital sign? Because when it's similar, to me, it's not going to look like that one, so.
Yes, so we do have a design, an approved design for that sign. So what I can do is share it, with you individually and show you the rendering and everything, and then we can also kind of communicate it out to the community.
Okay.
Yeah.
And is there a possibility to get additional funding? I know you shaked every tree, but not the city's tree.
Well,
Councilwoman?
I think, of course, the answer is yes, it's always possible. Where we are now, though, is of course because we've kind of come this far, gotten it to 6.4 million, gotten, I think, the major priorities back in. We're eager to go to council for the construction contract so we can start.
Okay.
Yeah.
So
Does
we
that
still-
answer your question?
A little bit, not really,
Sort of.
but, yeah, but is it still gonna be on schedule? Even though, because I don't know how all that works, as far as for the funding and the scheduling. If they're not gonna take funding away from us because if there's a delayed, I guess that's
No,
what I'm
ma'am.
worried about.
No, and really the construction contract locks all that in by ordinance.
Okay,
Right. So, and then once we have the contractor on board through that council action, that's when we'll really be able to give a better idea of schedule. And what we've been doing, you had mentioned the communication, and I just have to give a shout out to to the library's communications team. They're awesome. But what our intention is, it's each month to do that big communication out to the community, share it with council office, and get the word out about where we are, what's going on.
okay.
Yeah.
All right, well, thank you.
Thank you.
Hello, my name is Jesusita Rios. I just wanted to thank you. I saw that the solar shading was back, and that was one of my biggest worries. I also wanted to know, I saw the framework of it and was going to go ahead and see how is that going to affect the energy as far as the system in itself, and will that be able to go ahead and cut down the energy as far as hot suns and everything that we have? That was my biggest concern at that point because of the system and because we do have the summers that we do have here in Texas.
Yeah.
So I wanted an explanation of exactly, is this the original system that we had already gotten?
Yes, and I know we have a couple of resources here. Pam and Scott Carpenter are the architects that kind of designed this system, and they did all kinds of light studies. I mean, it was very, very scientific. So they can share a little bit more if they'd like to come up. And then I will introduce Byron Smith, who's our city architect as well. So would y'all like to come up and maybe give a little bit more information about that system? But it is as originally designed, so it's adding back that system. Yes.
Yes, starting, one component of the system is the glass, and the glass itself is a very energy efficient glass. We ran the calculations and it passes energy code. The glass also has an additional coating on it. And we did do some sun studies. We entered the coordinates of the library, and our building model did the sun and shade study, which I think are these angles that you see here are based on calculations from our software. We have not done like a robust energy analysis. Those are pretty costly, and they take away resources from the project when we know that it already passes energy code, and doing it in using the Department of Energy software.
It did say that the windows would be double paned. Is that still the same thing? And a special glass would be in there because of the absorbing of the heat.
Yes, yes, it's a special, it is double glazed, it's insulated glass units, and we are using, or we are proposing to use the same glass as what is in the library now. It's a solar band glass, and it's colored, and it's kind of that green, that blue green, and that blue green gives it more energy efficiency when it's colored like that. And I don't know if, Scott, if you want to speak to the shade.
Yeah, so just a kind of an explanation of the diagrams here. This is kind of showing three kind of standard conditions throughout the year. As the earth tilts and we get more or less direct light into the building. So what this was showing is that in the summertime when we're in our heat loads are the greatest, this solar shading device, its dimensions are such that it throws a shadow down here at the base of the wall, so you're not getting direct light entering into the building. Of course, you'll get reflected light, and it'll change throughout the day, different angles, but this is intended to reduce the amount of direct light during our hottest days or during the summer. The spring and fall equinox, that's kind of the average, the Goldilocks perfect time to design these things. And once again, the solar structure was set up so that even during those days in the kind of mid-year spring and fall, the shadow's falling right at the base of the glazing, the storefront system there. And then during the winter, in the time where you actually do want to have some heat gain take place to reduce your heat loads during the winter. It's showing there on the far right side there, the winter solstice condition where you do get light entering into the building and striking the floor at the base of the wall there. So that's basically what that diagram is showing.
Can you just talk about the library branded banner that's there? What material is that, and is it easily replaceable? Customizable? Right, so that is just an illustration of what our internal team could do. So it would be a material that's easily replaceable. And the idea would be that we would do, if not seasonal things, maybe program driven, advertising. It's a way to basically bring more awareness to certain activities. Yes. Yes, ma'am.
Can you come up to the podium so the online folks can hear you?
Oh, I'm just asking him a question about the screens.
Yes.
Go. You can ask it if you prefer, because I can repeat it.
Linda Orange from Las Palmas, France. Are these shades smart enough to know that, like in Texas or San Antonio, right in the middle of winter, we're going to have a 90-degree day or week or whatever? And do they adjust?
They do not, they're static.
But as a supplement to this, and as a potential future add to the project, you can have internal shades as well. And that's what you can use to reduce glare and also to respond to the kinds of situations what you're talking about, where you're having unseasonably warm days.
Right.
Right.
Because like, today was 90 degrees. So
Yeah,
we
but
will,
but these are fixed, so they're a fixed solar shading, but they would be used in conjunction to the glazing technology that Pam described, as well as some future shade, roller shades that could be added later when
Is that why
additional
autumn-
funds are available.
is that why autumn is not included? Because it's a transitional time?
The solar angles are the same for both the spring and the fall, so that actually could be spring/fall equinox. The conditions are similar.
Okay.
Nobody else has any? Do you have a question? I just wanted to mention right now in the plaza or courtyard, whatever we're calling it, in front, that's going to be enclosed, we have a number of, I guess, cement benches. Where are they going? Because we were looking at the back of the library, and, you know, right now, they don't have any real, I guess, patio area in the back, although they do have a nice little enclosed area back there. Is there any intention of setting up these benches in the back and maybe a table or several tables for crafts, for different things that the children could, or anybody could do as part of the library program?
I can speak to the benches. They are in the scope to be painted and refreshed and then placed along the wall of the Metro Health and the library as you come in. So I think
okay.
right now they're under that structure, the skeletal structure, and then we're just going to place them along the wall.
So we actually could add some concrete benches and tables to the back, right?
Oh, yeah, or you could move them if they're more useful. Those.
I don't know, whatever, I'm not sure what,
Yeah, and I know you're talking about the area that's at the back of the existing meeting room. We
Right.
don't have any planned scope for it. It's not really a easily used public area, but we're always open, you know, to conversations about how to best use any space. Right now, it's not really treated as a public area because it's right adjacent to the staff area, the staff parking, you know.
well, it's right outside of the meeting room.
It's right outside of the meeting room. It's sort of like, oh, I see you.
I know.
And you're so nice. But, right, this project doesn't have a plan for that, but, you know, it's a living, breathing branch.
It doesn't seem like
So
it
we
would
can
be a
talk-
major project
Yeah.
to do, I mean, just concrete benches and a couple of tables. It seems
Yeah.
like that would be easily,
I think
Done.
we can talk more about that. Yeah.
okay.
I think there's some benches there now.
There
in the
are,
front and the
too.
back.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, I think the challenge back there is it's really not a public facing area, you know, in that it's easily accessible or usable, and then it's right adjacent to kind of our back of house. But we're always open to having conversations, you know, for future improvements.
Well, I know, because we've talked about a community garden.
Yes.
And, you know, if we're doing away with all the space in front, there isn't much really room for a community garden, but it's a smaller space back there, and possibly some of that could be used for a small community garden
Sure.
as
Yeah.
just kind of a little exhibit area.
It's heavily shaded. There's 3 large heritage live oaks there. The community garden may have some limitations in that particular location.
Yeah.
Well,
But it's a
but-
beautiful area.
Yeah, for
Right
shade
now, we're
plants.
not treating it as public. It's not part of the project, but we can talk more about it going forward.
okay, and I know you
Yeah.
said Byron Smith was here. I don't
He
know
is
who Byron
here.
Smith is.
I see him.
But I know that Evelyn Gomez is the architect with the next phase, which is not this particular renovation project. But community garden was part of that discussion.
The
Community
discussion
garden
of the other project.
of the other project.
Okay.
I guess, in the area closer to the Y, once that land is leveled. But do we know if that's ever going to get done, if the area is actually going to be addressed?
Yeah, so that one I will have to defer to Byron on. We're talking about the other bond project that is separate from the library project.
Okay. So Evelyn Gomez is the architect on that one, right?
Yes, Evelyn's on my team.
Yes.
So, yes, she's out on FMLA right now. She had a knee replacement.
Oh,
We
okay.
expect her back on the 22nd of this month.
Okay.
Fingers crossed, so.
Yes.
The West Side Strategic Plan was part of the same bond item as the Las Palmas Library improvements. And so, as you're well aware, we've had some challenges to bring the phase two to fruition. We're getting ready to go for request for council action on that project. We've got the funding allocated, or what we think we're gonna have available to execute the West Side plan. What we focused on, and we've reviewed it with the councilwoman, was our focus was gonna be to do, we can't do the whole thing in one step. We just don't have the funding available. So what we've focused on is widening that sidewalk along Castroville Road. I know that there's been concerns about the safety of pedestrians on that street. The traffic moves pretty quickly, and so that's what we're focused on in the first phase. We've got some preliminary pricing together from our horizontal team on that. We've done some things to try to bring the cost down to what we can handle, and it's between Iris, I think is the street, along the park, all the way down to, I don't recall the other cross street where the church is, but that whole sidewalk along Castroville between those two streets, and then we're looking at putting a crosswalk mid-block as well. So that sidewalk would be widened, we'd improve the paving. Right now there's power poles right in the middle of the sidewalk. So that's what of all the different pieces of the West Side plan, that's what we had to figure what was gonna be the most effective moving forward first, and that was what we had focused in on.
So that's first, but is there a second?
Well, as you seem to be aware. of
Well,
what's
there's
in
a
the
lot
West Side
to
plan,
that,
There's that plaza area between the Y and the library building, so that could be a second step. Then there's the pathway and improvements along the backside of all the city
Right.
facilities between the park and on over to where the church is located. That, how those come out, obviously, your input and preferences would be important for us to determine that. So next steps, we're gonna need to probably go out and find some more money. Maybe the next bond, we can do that, those next steps.
It's another bond.
I don't wanna be presumptuous in how it might be funded, I don't know, but.
Well, because the park improvements are also part of that strategic plan. So is Parks and Recreation part of this? Are they targeting any of that for improvement at the park?
I don't know, but I can find out for you.
Thank you. Okay, thank you.
I work right next to our landscape architect who heads up our team that does all the parks projects, so I can find out very easily for you and let
Okay.
you know.
Okay, and let me mention one thing, not with Mr. Smith.
Okay. Thank you.
I know that thank you, that we're talking about all of these improvements and, getting a lot of this back. And I know that we're already at the point of moving forward, but we haven't had a summer like we had this past summer. And I heard the weatherman the other day, not the weatherman, but an analyst talking about this next summer's projected to be maybe even worse. So we're talking about a lot of, concerns. And as was mentioned, the solar shade system, we absolutely saw that as a priority to go back there. And I know that when the discussion was to have that plaza totally glass enclosed, it sounded beautiful, it looked beautiful, it was beautiful. But now I'm wondering, before we actually do the work, and again, just something to think about, maybe we need to go back to putting so much of it solid up, even halfway, and then glass the rest of the way. So that to cut down on what's going to be required to climate control that room. It's going to be such a concern for that community. Plus, the whole threat of vandalism, which I know is a threat. I mean, we went by the library today and a window obviously was broken because there's wood on it, a piece of plywood. And I don't know if the door was broken, but that's also got plywood on there. So I think that's also a concern that as a community, we need to have addressed. You know, how safe is that addition going to be? And how much concern has really been incorporated into it. I realize things have changed along the way, and maybe we need to take another really close look at it. So again, just something to think about.
I
Thank you.
appreciate that concern. Thank you. And I should add, and I know Jessica has a question from online. One of the things with the expansion of the 2,000 square feet with the glass storefront, which I think we all really think is beautiful, was the air conditioning system, the heating system, the ventilation system, the solar shade system. So a lot of thought has been put into how do we support this space, you know, in this design scheme so that we're comfortable in there. You can control light when you're doing a presentation, etc. So, you know, when we have a 110-degree day, it does get challenging, but I have confidence in the building systems that have gone along with the design. But that, I mean, it's valuable feedback. I appreciate that.
There's a question from an online participant, and the question is, has temporary library or resource center been created to support the community while there is no active library, or is one planned?
Yes, there is an interim library service location, and I'll ask Dale to kind of give more detail. Or, I'm so sorry. Do you want to come up and just talk about the plans we make for interim library service during the closure? I didn't mean to surprise him. That's why I was saying I'm so sorry.
No, that's fine. Anytime a library is closed this long, we always have some kind of interim service. So in this particular case, Lily, who's here at the back, is often there providing the actual service at Our Lady of the Lake at the library there. The hours change every now and then because the library changes their hours. So we have to fit in the library hours, but we're there multiple days every week and ready to provide service. So thank you.
Do you want to introduce Lily? I should have
Oh,
done that earlier.
sure. Well, no. My mind has just suddenly gone blank. So, Perez, Lilia Perez here is at the back of the room. She's the manager. My apologies. I know your name very well. We just had an hour-long meeting last week, so about something else. So, thank you.
I did the same thing with our board member, Marianne Valdez Hernandez. I just said her first name, so my apologies for that too. Okay, other questions?
I have a question about something else.
Okay. About something other than the library? I don't know.
No.
Oh,
Other than the shades and the
I got you.
air conditioning system.
Okay.
Linda Orange, Las Palmas. We received an email from you all talking about the artwork
Yes.
and the Art Council, and we were wondering if there is any way that we can find artists in our area from Edgewood, Kip, Jefferson, whatever. No, Jefferson is not in our area. But anyway, other schools, because we would like to have art that represents the area of Las Palmas. And nowhere has it said we are meeting to ask suggestions, but, you know, time is gonna pass, and then all of a sudden, we're gonna be stuck with something that doesn't represent our area.
Right. So what I know, Ms. Orange, what you're referring to is the public art component of the project, and So that Las Palmas was picked as a location for public art as part of the bond with community input. So that was the first step. We have a $300,000 funded public art project, and we actually have Renee Talamantes. Okay, I'm just a little nervous from before. And Renee is here with our Department of Arts and Culture, and so she can talk about kind of how the process works. It's early days.
I know it's always early, but then it's all of a sudden, it's too late.
Yeah, no.
And
it's-
maybe our councilwoman can help us with a nice donation towards our art projects, or any project that she wants to help with.
Let's talk about what.
The budget meetings.
Yeah.
Let
her answer the question about that.
Right.
Yes.
Hello, I'm Renee, Public Art Project Manager with the Department of Arts and Cultures. So yes, public art is coming to Las Palmas Library, and we are in the early stages, so we are about to be launching a survey that will help gather information from the community on what they want to see for the artwork, and then we will move into artist selection once we have that data from the community on what direction we'll go. And artists are selected from a pool of pre-qualified artists that are council approved. And so as much as possible, we try to choose artists for that shortlist who are from that district or the surrounding districts and from San Antonio specifically. They will do extensive outreach to the community to make sure that, that throughout the whole design process, to make sure that we are building the artwork and creating the artwork for what the community is looking for.
So what qualifies a person to be qualified to say, I want my name on that list?
They
Because
apply.
a lot of times the kids don't know, and if it happens during the summertime, when they're not in school, and there's not an art teacher who says, you have great potential. We found out when we had our anniversary at Las Palmas, we partnered with Edgewood, the Fine Arts School, and we found out that some of those kids were extremely gifted, but nobody knew. So I want to give those kids an opportunity. So how do they get their name on it?
Yes. We're always doing outreach to get more artists on our pre-qualified list, and that application is open every year. So the more we have more and more artists on our list every single year. So they do have to apply, and there's a process for that. We have public meetings where we talk about that and can help them complete those applications. And then there's a panel of art experts and community members who then review all those applicants before we present it to our Arts Commission and Council for approval.
A lot of times you all say, go online. Well, a lot of the people in this area can't go online, especially when Las Palmas is closed. That's their closest library. How do you reach them? It's easy. Some of these people are professional, non-professionals, and they get on all these lists, and they get to design the medals, and they get to design the posters.
Yeah.
But we have a wealth of talent. How can we?
Yes, and we have artists from all different levels, and they get all different types of projects. And we do have in-person workshops that we can help walk them through that online application. Or we can schedule a time that they can come into our office, and we'll walk them through that application as well.
How do you get that information out to the public, like what you're saying, y'all can help them and so forth? How do you get it out to the community, the people that don't have computers, like she said? Not everybody knows how to get online, whatever. How do you reach out to the people? And also, I wanted to know how she was saying about Our Lady of the Lake. I live right by there. I didn't even know that it was open, all this time that it's been closed, Las Palmas. A lot of people have lost interest and so forth. We had a good turnout at Las Palmas, and I wanted to know, why is it that people are not getting the, a better communication of all these meetings? I just found out today about this meeting. I'm pretty far already. It's already, I see all this construction going on, and I'm a community activist. And I'm gonna tell you that also that I think that where is the money, while all these times that the Las Palmas was closed, where did that funding go? As all this time that it's been closed, where's that money at? The budget that they use every year, where did that money go? I see that y'all got a lot of, donations from HEB, the congressman and so forth. Where's the budget that we use every year for Las Palmas? Where's that money go? All
Right,
this years, all this time that's been closed, and all the resources that we have for the community and for our children, after-school programs that they run to the library, because that's the only place they can go and learn. I know we have this library here, but it's different communities that we have. A lot of people depend on Las Palmas, it's been there for so many years. I also believe that about the name, that's a very important thing. I know that HEB does donations, big donations to the whole city of San Antonio, but I believe that it's up to the people in the community about changing Las Palmas name, because that's like a historical name, Las Palmas.
right. And I just want to make sure it's clear, so the Las Palmas Branch Library will remain the Las Palmas Branch Library. So the HEB gift is for the portion of the plaza, right? Yeah. And then I totally hear your input about making sure that we're including everyone in the community with getting information, and I take that and we'll look at ways to improve.
We should have a big crowd here.
Right.
We have a big crowd when Las Palmas is open. I think we have a lot of people more than here
Mhm.
in that building, working and using that resources in there when it was open. I believe that the information is not getting out to the people.
Sure.
It's not.
Yeah, no, I appreciate that input. We're constantly looking for ways to improve, so thank you for that comment. And I did want to invite the councilwoman to come up and make any closing remarks. We do have some other questions, and we'll get to that in just a minute.
Sure. So a couple of things. It's great to hear the conversation and comments about the West Side Plan, right? I think there's lots of opportunity for think about the future and the 2027 bond. And for folks that are already organized around the Las Palmas Library and have been since 2017 to continue that work. And while we ask and advocate as an office for 2027 bond support, that communities alongside us to ensure that we see the materialization of the Las Palmas West Side Plan, right? Because I want to be clear, there's 3 plans, very costly. If all 3 were implemented, it'd likely be like a several districts investments. So just want to be sure that we have a community there to advocate for potentially 2027 bond project to complete the West Side Plan, to ensure that the pieces and the parcels are leveled, and there's like just access right across all the city properties. And of course the widening the sidewalks and all those pieces that Byron hit on. So looking forward to those conversations. Further, right, hearing pieces about the arts, right? The arts department's very great at going out into the community. So if you have recommendations of schools or restaurants or places that you believe they can be to do outreach to artists, let us know, and we could work with the arts department to get there to ensure that community have access to that application. I hear the comments about the digital divide. Again, right, we can be there with iPads to help them, walk them through that application process. And at the same time, we're going through the 2025 budget conversations where I'm advocating for increased funding for IMP and CIP, right? CIP is a capital improvement projects fund, which gives us flexibility to support projects like arts and gives us the flexibility to widen sidewalks. So what we heard in the last council conversation is there is consensus for increasing CIP. But when we have the budget conversations, the community conversations, I think it'd be helpful if city leadership heard from you all, right, that we do need to increase CIP, that we do need to increase NAMP, and we do need to increase arts funding and support the West Side Plan. So that way we're all in sync and we can bring as much money to District 5 and particularly to support the West Side Plan. So thank you. Thank you.
Thank you. Mm-hmm. And I did want to introduce one more of our board members, our library board member, Carla Gargiola. I'm like 0 for 4 at this point. Carla is our District 1 board representative. So if there's other questions, we'll be happy. Yes, ma'am.
It's for the artwork, for the art project manager. I mean, for.
Yes, you got it right.
Okay, I wanted to ask you, as far as when the whole area is finished, that's when the artwork, I know they designated an area for the artwork. So that designation for that piece of artwork is gonna get placed on there once the whole library is finished.
Yes, so our timeline will not be quite in step with the full library renovation, but we typically do come in. We don't want to install artwork in the middle of a construction zone, so we typically will come in after they've completed their work, and then we'll install.
Okay, so are you going to take into consideration the height of the artwork?
Yes, absolutely. So especially with the addition of the
Because of that,
sunshades.
yes.
So we'll work with the architects to make sure that the artwork is integral to the design and it's cohesive and it works with the architecture.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, and we'll reach out to you as we move along in the process.
Yes.
So we can have those conversations about what it should look like. Thanks.
There's another question from the online viewership. The question is, please address the question regarding the annual operating budget for the library. Where have those funds gone? Can they be allocated for community support?
Right. So very good question, and I'm sorry I missed it because you asked that. So when we have a branch that's closed, it does have a portion of our operating budget. So what we typically do is the majority of what the budget is for any given branch is the staff members, their salaries, benefits. And so those staff members provide interim service, like Lily was, we referred to Lily a moment ago. And then sometimes they do help with some other system-wide projects. For Las Palmas in particular, one thing we did in this year's budget to make sure that there were resources dedicated to Las Palmas for when it reopens is we actually got a collection budget improvement, so more money to do a refresh of the collection at Las Palmas in anticipation of the reopening. So that's kind of how we handle the operating budget during the closure. I hope that answered the question. Okay, and that was Jessica Zarita. She's our Assistant Library Director for Support Services. I didn't introduce her earlier. Other questions or comments?
When is this going to be voted on, if this gets approved, by the community? How are you doing this?
Right.
You want to get it, we got our input, so what is the next step from
Yes.
our input that you just received here today?
Yes, ma'am. Let me get to the, I think it's at the end, sorry. So the next step is for consideration of our Library Board of Trustees meeting, which is on May 22nd. So we would make a recommendation to the Library Board of Trustees at their May 22nd, 2024 meeting. That meeting is a public meeting, of course. The community's welcome to sign up to speak. And that is at 4:30 p.m. at the Forest Hills Branch Library. And if anyone has signed up on the sign-up sheet, we'll be sure to communicate that out to everyone. And then I know there was a follow-up question about the monument sign, so we'll share that information too if you've given us your contact. Okay. All right, well, I really appreciate everyone coming out and your comments, and we will keep the community posted as this goes along. So thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.